Well, I'm here at the main base in the dunes just to show that I made some progress. I've made some medical kit fabricators. We're going to have some power cell chargers for the Cyclops. But I've also gone ahead and I've really added in some nice aquariums to have some different kinds of food sources. And then in terms of the interior, I've also gone ahead and just placed some real basic furniture, just a nice little desk and some chairs here. I got the same aquarium in this kind of little tower over here. Then got a small little farm out here with the creep vines and the gel sacks just to prevent having to go to the shallow biomes when I'm here. This is where I need the stuff, so I don't want to have to go on some great venture elsewhere. But this base is looking absolutely fantastic. But probably the biggest change would be what all I've done in this room. Some of the stuff I haven't constructed yet because I do not want to waste materials on things that are not essential. So of course the main thing, I got an alien containment here. We could have, this could be more of an aesthetic fish tank as opposed to these more functional ones for food sources or whatever. I got some storage in some kind of nice areas here. Now I've got some desks with swivel chairs here, but I'm really not sure if I want to keep that. And then I also went ahead and lined up, like, look how perfect this counter is lined up. I lined up these counters and we could have like maybe some like microscopes and kind of like laboratory equipment sitting up there, but I still don't know how much I want all this stuff. I mean, it could theoretically look nice, but at the end of the day, it also is just clutter instead of like this nice open feeling that you kind of have to navigate through these chairs if you go on this side. So I do like the clean. I like this. Still kind of debating on which path I want to take. And then I also went ahead and I built this additional segment here where I have a bit of kind of a nice little master bedroom area. We got a window looking over to the crater, which you can't see because it's night now. A little maybe a conversation area, an aquarium with some bookcases, and of course a bed and picture frame where we can put a real nice special image of a four-mandibled Reaper Leviathan getting ready to just rip my face off. And then of course I also got like a battery charger here. This could be like one of those inconvenient power outlets that are all the way down by the floor that you have to reach all the way down to plug something in. So that's kind of my rendition there. But with that, I've added a lot to this base, this main base here. I think it is coming along really quite nicely. As you can see, I've made a lot of changes to the base's interior. I'm really pleased with how it has come out so far. This is going to be our great center with the asteroid down there, this kind of observatory. So I'm really pleased with how this is coming along so far. You may have also noticed I finally removed all of the thermal plants around this really weak thermal vent, and I put them all in the floating islands biome with the geysers to ensure that we're actually getting some half decent power. So it's kind of an interesting thing. You can actually utilize the heat source in a different biome and use it to power a base in a whole different biome. I didn't even know you could do that until I started messing around with this. So I think this is really coming along great, but it's going to be time to make a little trip a little bit to our midpoint observatory here. Now, when I initially surveyed the dunes, I thought that the location at the crater was one that was very favorable, and I thought one at this sinkhole was very favorable. So I've gone ahead. Excuse me, I'm trying to have a conversation with the audience here. They're being a little bit disrespectful. Anyways, if you'll let me have a conversation with the audience, please, without any more funny business. if I do say so myself. I was really interested in starting a base at the crater, and then I wanted to do one here at the sinkhole, because I think that these are two very nice little areas. I think they're kind of attractive to someone who admittedly has not spent a lot of time in the dunes through the playthrough. You might think, the Cove Tree is a great place, and it is. You might think a certain place in one biome is, or a certain place in another. So these I felt were some really attractive little sites in the dunes to make use of for expanding the dunes colonies. But with that being said, I've got my eyes set on a third location. Now these smaller bases, these are gonna kind of be more so for looks than anything, just because it's kind of something neat. But like the big base over there will be very functional, and then I'm thinking of at least one more smaller one over here, and I'm thinking of another big functional one over in this general direction. So we've got two bases established so far in the dunes, and with that I think it's time we make our expansions a little greater, make the colonies a little stronger, and continue on to a third location. Now this time I do have some med kits, which is very nice when you are trudging through some of these landscapes here. So this base I think came out really great, working with the very limited land space that there was. But if you're curious as to where my location number 3 is, there is an alien vent somewhere in this direction, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that would be kind of neat to have almost like a base circling that, as almost like an observatory type structure, kind of with the appearance of studying that. Those are the vents that of course are going down to the Sea Emperor. And speaking of the Sea Emperor, I thought that one was supposed to show up in the dunes at some point, but of course I could be mistaken. Of course, we have no opposition to the company of the Reaper Leviathans. I mean, they make a great backdrop. They certainly do. I don't think it's so high up. I think it's in kind of a more of a flatter area. Yeah, this is kind of the area that I had in mind, right about here. I didn't realize that there were reefbacks in the dunes. It seemed like a very dead location to me thus far. Take a look here. So we've got the alien vent there, and it's kind of tough just based on the position of the Cyclops. But what I'm thinking of establishing here is 2 big rooms on both ends, and maybe like some glass compartments running down the side. That way we have somewhat of a natural habitat rectangle circling the vent, kind of as an observation piece. And of course we can have various glass and observatory aspects that we can use to kind of look out at this unique landscape that you can't see anywhere else on the map. So with that, I'm going to craft up some of the necessary essentials to get some of the basic construction started, and we will go from there. So with the floor plan that I am thinking of, just the general structure, I'm going to have to start with 2 of the large size rooms, and those will serve as our ends, and then I will have some regular or glass compartments with them, and at least an observatory, maybe some multi-purpose rooms. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I think that things will come together nicely as I start getting just some base pieces placed down, at least for the time being. So now I've got 4 plasteel ingots. That is enough for 2 of the large rooms, and then I'm thinking of just doing traditional eye compartments just for the time being, and later replacing those with glass, just depending on what the hull integrity looks like. Kind of what I think will be about the most difficult part of this is always the placement, because I'm very particular when it comes to the placement, and there's no just grid where it snaps on. So I'm going to try to get something perfectly here, perfectly there, and along the sides to where it kind of generally makes sense and it's not slightly angled or off center, which is a lot easier said than done. I do not see the deer reaper friends anywhere. I believe that he is kind of up there somewhere. What we're looking for here, I mean, you can see how this is very much a point of interest in this biome, because they're certainly not everywhere. Here comes the tedious part. Nobody's sneaking up on me, maybe a sand shark, but frankly I don't mind if he's sneaking up on me. See how that looks. Okay, that I think is some perfect placement in terms of that one dimension, but it might not be so much in the other direction. Ah, what a beautiful day in the dunes. We can't admire them too much. It's going to be very dark, and it doesn't stay very light around here for very long. Something to this effect is, I think, what I'm after. To me, that looks like it is pretty nice and centered in there, but it is not absolutely perfect. And it's just gotta be absolutely perfect. It's not perfect, but I don't know if it really can be truly perfect is the problem. But with this, you can kind of get a bit of an idea of what it is that I am looking for here. Alright, well, I've given it a couple more shots, and I think that this is just about as perfect as it is going to be. You can see that these little notches here are lined up right with the center, and we've got a row of 4, which you could put a large room on because they got a space for 4 attachments. And when I put these 4 together, the legs literally, it's not perfect, but I mean, it can't get much closer than that. They're both literally intersecting on that little central beam of the vent. So I think we are going to call that pretty good, barring some unforeseen event where the large room does not fit, in which case it does. So if we take a look at that, yeah, I mean, that just about makes a perfect rectangle around this vent. It was really tough to get the perfect rectangle, but I think it'll be definitely a desirable looking base at the end, even if it is just a small one. So now if we take a moment, step back, you can see that lines up really nicely. It's almost about as perfect it's about almost as perfect as a rectangle as you could have around one of these alien vents using base pieces. I'm really pleased with how this has come out. Now I'm going to add some things. It's obviously not the finished state, but that is kind of what the core of the idea was going to be. This is going to be the alien vent base, so I may as well just mark it out while I'm here, and voila, alien vent base. So that is going to be a great new little place. Oh, that's a beautiful shot. The Cyclops, and you can see the Reaper up in the background there. If we had any photographers, I'd order them to get onto the scene pronto. Gold, you can never have too much gold for power transmitters until I just absolutely raid the Sea Treader's path. Here's a warper. About get a selfie next to a warper these days. Hey, you want to get a selfie together? That'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Yeah, we're hanging out. Oh, I guess he didn't want anything to do with me. Really, my main thing now is I need to get an observatory and really a hatch. So quartz is kind of one of those things you're always going to be running low on when you're building big bases with observatories and you want all the fancy stuff. You're going to be running out of quartz really fast. So we can do a observatory, we'll do a hatch. We may as well do more reinforcements. Weak bases, plain and simple, do not like observatories. But I think we're going to do the observatory facing in this direction, just with some of the landscapes with the thermal vents and kind of some of the interesting little spires over there. As soon as we get some reinforcements going up in here, it's better than chasing a bunch of leaks in the base later on. So I think that'll be a really nice view when it's actually daytime and I can see. And then in terms of, looks like the water already beat me in there, it's already flooded. But anyways, in terms of a hatch, I think we want to go with something over here, just so we can get in. We can actually see, which is a great change for once. But yeah, here's the view that I would be getting from this little base here, which I think is actually a pretty nice view. You get to see some of these interesting spires. You get to see the height of the biome go up, I think, into the grassy plateaus right there. Some nice little heat vents and just some of the dunes stretching off in the distance. It is quite a nice little view. It's going to be a nice place for some very minimal operations, but I don't intend on doing anything that is just absolutely too crazy. I'm either going to have to do bioreactor or I might do a thermal, but the problem is since that one's kind of part of the view, I don't want to load it up with kind of ugly looking thermal plants. I really think that would be a bit of a disservice if we were to be honest here. Oh, come on, dude, where are you at? I know you're around here somewhere. Alright, whatever floats your boat, I guess. I think the blood kelp trench is right over here. Yeah, here's the blood kelp trench. So, I mean, we are really right at the edge of the dunes with this base in particular here. It's kind of interesting because it dips so far down when going in the sea treader's path, and this is actually where the blood kelp zone actually starts dipping down. I do think some of these kind of transition points between the biomes are kind of fun to see. Often you only think of the biome as a whole, and I just really think that the transitions between the biomes have been just executed so beautifully. But in terms of location, this is another place I'm kind of eyeing right here. Kind of a place with this big arch nearby, this little mound, and we're gonna have, of course, some of our Reaper friends in the background, which we know and love. You know, I mean, you can't have much of a Dunes experience without some of them involved in the activity. So you're definitely going to have some of them around as such an exciting little backdrop. You're very loud. I hope he is not interrupting my thoughts here. I think we got a great start with this whole Dunes project so far. We got 3 pretty awesome bases, I think, and at least one more, maybe even more beyond that. I'm not entirely sure. Here's the sea treaders. I don't think I've even shown them on my channel yet, so we definitely don't want to exclude them. They are the best producers of all shale outcrops. Definitely a great place for resources of all types. Your quartz, if I can get it. Your warper friends. And of course shale, which is great. Infinite amounts of shale. If this has a diamond in it, I'm literally not going to pick it up. Lithium, that's acceptable. But quartz is kind of in pretty high demand with me right now, just with all this window activity that's going on. It's definitely a very interesting biome for a change. With these sea treaders, they're definitely a great addition. We'll grab one of these as well. I might just have to go with a bioreactor, which I really don't like, but you know, you gotta have power whether you like it or not. Alright, well I definitely got some quartz, which is much better than none. I'm trying to think of the layout that I want to do ahead of time. I could do a multi-purpose room and make it like a bedroom or a special bioreactor room, or I could just have the two. You pipe down a little bit up there. You're very loud. Nice and centered the moment you walk in. Let there be light. Wazah. That is my third base powered in the dunes now. That's pretty neat. I never thought I'd be colonizing the dunes, but here I am. That is some pretty awesome stuff right there. And here we'll get just a very small little farm going. I kind of like to distance these just a skosh at least from the base itself. Here we'll have some grow beds with some little gel sacks just for additional bioreactor fuel. And what you do with these, you slice them twice and you plant the new ones because you can slice them 3 times. I'm just going to kind of clean up this area some because there's some kind of metal salvage trash sitting around here, which just really isn't such an inviting view for a little natural piece of scenery here. Reef backs are just awesome. Way up there above the dunes. I almost didn't hardly, here's one. I almost didn't hardly know they were here. I mean, I never have seen them much in at least the northern portion of the biome. But I guess they're kind of coming to and from the grassy plateaus, which is pretty awesome. So they're definitely welcome in my book. Yeah, this is going to be, I think, a very nice little third base here. I'm really pleased with how it came out. So with that, I think I'm gonna get some little things going with it and kind of finish it off here. But the great view. Hey buddy, how are you doing? We've got a great view, some little peeper friends outside and reaper friends outside for sure. But with a great view and a great little start. And I think I'm going to be leaving it off here because this was kind of my objective, and I'll work on developing it a little bit further in my own time. So with that, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.